Good afternoon. My name's Marty Hinman. I'm a member of the Education Committee, and I'm pleased to welcome you to You Are My Sunshine FSBPT's membership survey results. Every 5 years, the Board of Directors conducts a membership survey to gather information from the strongest part of the organization, its members. Find out more about the results of this survey, which informs the board's strategic planning work in this session. The speakers for this session are Missy Anthony and Carl Fusco. Missy is the Executive Director of the Ohio Occupational Therapy, Physical Therapy, and Athletic Trainers Board. She served as chair of the 2023 Membership Survey Task Force. Carl's the consultant who actually created the 2023 membership survey tool and worked with the members of the task force to review the survey results. You can find their bios on your event app. They have valuable information to share, and we're also encouraging your participation. So if you wish to ask questions, as usual, during the end, please wait for a member of the committee to bring you a microphone so we can record your questions and responses. And please abide by the ground rules that are in your notebook so more attendees can have a chance to ask questions. I think we'll be fine in this session. At the end of the session, what are you supposed to do? Scan the QR code and fill out the evaluation form. We really appreciate your feedback, and now I will turn the presentation over to our speakers. Do you want this one off or on?
On.
Okay.
My name is Missy Anthony, and as was noted earlier, I chaired the membership survey task force, and that was my pleasure. And we're here to talk to you. Carl is mostly here to talk to you about the results. We did name it You Are My Sunshine because that was the general theme of the results, is that I think FSBPT is a lot of people's sunshine, a lot of help to a lot of us who are trying to regulate. Introduce yourself, Carl.
Sure.
Do you want to use your own mic?
Hi, yes, I'm Carl Fusco. I'm a marketing research and survey consultant. I was asked to work with the Federation to put together their member survey and to execute it. So we'll talk about how we did that and what the results were in just a minute.
And our objectives today are up on the screen to outline the directives of the task force, discuss the methodology, give a detailed explanation of the findings and data from the survey, analyze overall trends, determine and discuss areas of strength and weakness, and to review the recommendations made by the task force. To the board of directors, that is a lot, so we'll warn you that this might fly through. The 2023 membership survey was conducted in the first quarter of 2023, and it was the 8th membership survey in the Federation's history. The first one was conducted in 1998. And the task force met June 1st and 2nd to review the membership survey, make recommendations on its finding, and also to analyze the results. Found a few spots that might need a little further digging, which was subsequently done. Overall, task force members, you can see them on the screen. I don't know, do we have anybody in here? I don't, see, they already have heard everything, so. And we'll turn the rest over. Project objectives: to measure overall satisfaction with FSBPT, to gauge the importance of member services, to measure FSBPT's performance, and to identify membership issues, concerns, and needs, and interest in potential new initiatives. Overall, to inform strategic direction and initiatives, and all of this information goes to the board of directors. Next is Carl.
Okay, thanks. So, first of all, just quickly how we did this. We took a survey, a lot of different questions, mostly based on the 2018 survey, and then adapted it and added some new questions, took out some questions, and then programmed it for an online execution. We sent an introductory email, it says letter, but email letter, from the Federation, sort of pre-announcing that the survey was coming to help make sure it was validated when people get an email from some crazy organization. And then we sent out 563 online invitations to the memberships all over the country. We did 3 waves of email reminders. 2 were from FRC, which is my company, and 1 was directly from the Federation to remind people to do the survey. We got 202 responses, which is a 36% response rate, which is adequate for our purposes, a little lower than past surveys, but I attribute a lot of that to coming out of COVID and people being less participatory. But overall, it was a good survey and provided good information. The sample was distributed among board members, administrators, and we had some board of directors in the sample. It was primarily board member focused, about 2/3 board members, about 1/3 were administrators. And about half of the respondents were, had been members between 1 and 6 years. We had, and this is basically the same distribution we had in the 2018 survey of membership tenure. So that means that the data is really pretty comparable year to wave between 2018 and 2023. So we'll do some key findings. First of all, members are well satisfied and rate performance valuable and positively. The results are really positive, and it's something that you should be very proud of, that the Federation is doing a great service to the members. The members are really happy with their services overall, and there are not a lot of major problems to worry about. Second, however, there was a slight decrease in satisfaction with opportunities to participate. So that's something to watch. It's not a significant decrease, but it's something to watch. The NPTE is strongly perceived as both important and necessary. The ratings of the staff are extremely high on support factors. The state board is perceived as important in ensuring safe and effective care. However, and overall satisfaction with governance remains extremely high. We looked at some strategic initiatives, and the top 4, and we'll get into them in more detail, were the PT Compact, Continuing Competence, ELDD campaign, and evidence-based regulation. Members are confident that the state boards ensure safe and effective care, and but only half of the members believe that the state board has all the necessary resources that they need. So that's another issue for attention. So let's take a look at all the detail. First of all, a big summary page that looks at the last 4 or last 3 surveys. The perceptions are still very high. There is a decrease in awareness, which is something to take a look at as we go forward, but the perceptions of value and performance related to last surveys remains extremely positive. Looking at each one in succession, so first of all, overall awareness, you can see that there was a significant decline in awareness of the the attributes and the services that are provided over the last survey. And that, even though it's down, it's still higher than the 2010 survey. So it's not at its lowest level, but it's something to take a look at and to find out why people's awareness of things is not rated as highly. Looking at the way the question was asked, you could see that the percentages of very good went down, but the percentages of good stayed about the same. And the real key weakness is that a lot of people are saying that their awareness was only fair. The other thing, and in the appendix, I'm not going to go through all the detail, but administrators were more likely to rate their awareness of services and activities very good, more so than members. And all of the poor ratings are from the new board members. So when we looked at tenure, that did have an impact, which you would expect. The overall value trends, very stable and very high. The members perceive the value that they get from membership is very high. And the percentage of answering very good is nearly 3 times better than those answering just good. So it's not only that they're very positive overall, but they're strongly positive about the value that they get. And then the overall performance trend, very stable and very high at about 94%. And again, the distribution of ratings, performance remains stable, and a lot more people are rating it as very good than rating it as just good. The other thing to take a look at is no one rated the overall performance as poor in this year's survey. And then we have overall satisfaction. Again, a very slight decrease, only 2 percentage points, which isn't a significant decrease, but since we're looking at overall satisfaction, it's something to become aware of and to watch, especially looking at the fact that the percentages of people who strongly agree did go down significantly in their perceptions of overall satisfaction. Okay, so I'm going to go through this kind of quickly, but remember, you'll be able to get access to the charts, and we'll save a little time for questions. But we've got a number of areas of analysis that we want to go through, and we'll go through each one in order. So first of all, exam services. One thing that we want to look at is this kind of a chart. This is something we call a performance importance matrix, or gap analysis. And I'll just show you how to read the chart. Basically, we asked people to rate how important various attributes were on a scale of 1 to 5. And then we asked them, how well does the Federation provide those?
I'm going to point for you.
Oh, okay. And then we asked them, how well does the Federation provide each of these attributes on the same 1 to 5 scale?
Nope.
Oh, what are you doing?
I'm looking it up. Yeah. You keep going.
Okay. And then we charted them on the same graph where the lines, the hatched lines are the averages for importance ratings and performance ratings. So the top right-hand quarter where it says high leverage, these are items that are important and that the Federation is performing very well on, is performing above average. So they're above average in importance, above average in performance. Those are the things that are high leverage for the Federation to emphasize, to use as examples and to continue to invest in. In the top left corner or quadrant, those are areas for improvement because they're areas where people say these are important to them, but the performance is below average. So those are areas where you want to try to boost importance, find out why the importance through some other questioning of people, why the performance is low, and then try to boost them. So for the exam services, there are two things that are really high leverage. The eligibility requirements and evidence-based preparation are strengths for the organization. And meaningful feedback is sort of on the cusp. The alternate approval pathway is something that are low priority attributes along with reliable jurisdiction. They're neither important nor performance is that well. So even though performance is below average, these aren't things that you really have to invest in because they're not as important to the members. Okay, when we look at various FSBPT resources, first of all, we wanted to find out what the awareness was of some of these resources, and we found that the top resource that had awareness was the Model Practice Act. That had the highest awareness among all of the different resources that are provided to members. The others that were very high, the Model Board Action Guidelines, Reentry, Physical Therapy, Jurisdiction, License Referencing, and Sexual Misconduct Boundaries, all were about 50% in awareness and familiarity. But, and remediation was something that came up pretty interestingly because people were aware of it. 57% though said they are aware but not very familiar with it. It's not something that they know a lot about, even though they've heard of the resource. And then the Healthy Practice tool had the lowest awareness. Only 25% were aware and familiar, and 44% just had never heard of the Healthy Practice tool. Looking at the importance and performance gap for the resources, 4 things pop up in the upper right quadrant as high leverage items. The Model Practice Act, the Jurisdiction Licensure Reference Guide, Sexual Misconduct and Boundary Resources, and the Model Board Action Guidelines. The areas for improvement, 3 things really jump out, and that is the impaired practitioners resources, remediation resources, and reentry of physical therapy providers. Those are areas, again, that are below average in both in performance, in satisfaction, in other words, but they're above average in importance to the members. ELDD services. There's nothing there for areas of improvement, which is good. And the 2 things that are really strong and high leverage items are the notification of disciplinary actions and sharing information about disciplinary actions. So those 2 things are items that are both high in importance and where satisfaction with their performance is very high. Next, communication and education resources. Again, we wanted to find out awareness of these resources to see what people knew about and what they didn't know about. The top awareness is for the website. 85% of the respondents, which is pretty high, are aware of and familiar with the website as a source of education and information. But 2 things are very low in awareness. social media, and discussion forums. When we look at the performance and importance matrix, 4 things again pop out as very strong attributes for the organization. The website, news briefs, live webinars, and the forum articles are very strongly perceived as important and performing well. The one area to take a look at is the recorded webinars. It's also very important as a means of communication and education, but it's one where the performance is less high or is below average and could require some improvement in order to boost its performance. One other thing to note on this chart is that social media is completely off the chart. It's not important and it's not performing well, but it's something that people aren't using as a means of communication or education when it comes to the Federation. We also asked about event attendance when we're talking about education and communication. Sorry. And you can see that one of the things here is that 13%, only 13% said they've attended none of these events, which I'm not sure is what your goals may be as far as, but I think that's pretty good that only 13% haven't attended anything. 70% have attended a webinar. 59% the regulatory workshops was a very high. And then the annual education meeting, this meeting, it's 57% have attended. And you can see that the board members usually have a higher attendance at all of these events than the administrators. Next topic is technology. Again, we asked awareness of different technological resources. The event registration is the highest awareness. 69% were aware of the event registration's technology and familiar with it. And the lowest awareness was for the automated data transfer. Interestingly, if you look at the jurisdiction interface, it's got a very high, again, a very high awareness, but unfamiliarity. 42% were aware, but not familiar with it, and 43% were aware and familiar with it. And then again, looking at the importance and performance matrix, 2 things stand out as high leverage attributes, the event registration and the member portal technology. But 3 things really require some attention and some work. Jurisdiction interface, the ELDD disciplinary notification, and the automatic data transfer. Okay. Next, the NPTE is perceived as really important, very necessary, and people are confident in the results, in the security, validity, reliability, that it's defensible. So those are really high percentages when you're looking at 98, 97% who agree with these statements. So the NPTE is a major strength for the organization. Okay, we asked people to rate the staff. So happily, ratings were very good. You can see that on all of the different attributes, responsiveness to trends, courtesy, support of committees, knowledge, ease of reaching, staff responsiveness, timeliness, all of these attributes, all of these characteristics of the staff were rated above 95%. and nobody had any poor ratings of the staff. So that's something to be very proud of. Looking over time for each of these attributes, again, very high ratings. There are only a couple of areas where the ratings actually went down significantly. Staff responsiveness and staff timeliness, but even though they are lower than they were in 2018, they're still 95%, so it's still an extremely high percentage and extremely positive ratings. We also did ratings of governance. We did a number of ratings, and the overall satisfaction was very high. 93% were overall satisfied with the governance provided. Responsiveness, accessibility, communication, and considerate of perspectives were the highest rated attributes for governance, all above 85%. And if, again, looking over time, there were only 3 areas that dropped in percentages from the 2018 survey: communicating effectively, timely issue identification, and representative composition of the governing board. And then we added a new question this year on confidence in online election process. 82% agreed that they were confident in the election process. We had a few questions about the state board. First of all, we wanted to know how important the state board was, and you can see that 82% strongly agree that the state board is important. 70% that the state board adequately ensures safe and effective care, but only 50% were strongly agreed that they had the necessary resources for their responsibilities. So again, it's not a huge difference, but it's something to look at going forward as to what resources people think are missing that the state board needs to carry out their responsibilities. Then again, we asked a number of, we provided a number of strategic initiatives and asked people to rank order those initiatives from 1 to 6. And the top 4, again, were the PT Compact, the Continuing Competence, the ELDD campaign, and the evidence-based regulation. And I've got descriptions of all of these as they were presented in this questionnaire in the appendix of the survey, but so you'll be able to see those and take a look at them. But the way that you look at this is that 24% of the people in the survey rated PT Compact as the #1 strategic initiative. They also put PT Compact, 56% put it in the top 3, and 78% put it in the top 6. So that's how you read this chart. The global awareness and jurisdiction grants, governance, and additional assessment options really receive very little very low ratings and importance. So those are things that probably either need to be reworked or taken off the docket for future development or consideration. Okay. Where are we on time?
It's 11:55, and we have till 12:15.
Okay. Before we get to the recommendations, I think we can take some questions now, if there are any. Okay.
You flew through it faster than you thought you would, Carl. I mean, there's a lot more that went into this, and the appendix will give you a deep dive. But the other thing I wanted to mention, especially when you talk about these strategic initiatives, sometimes it just depends on the timing of their release and what kind of cycle they were going through at the particular time the survey was done. Model Practice Act was definitely top of mind. So the committee had a few recommendations to the board of directors to consider, and I know this is overall the idea is for this data. I know they've already looked at it, but it will also inform their strategic planning process next year, which is always an important activity. But the committee, and this was probably the main goal of the committee itself, was to ensure that it was a sound process to conduct the survey and analyze the results, and we would agree with that. And that the results are mostly good to very good, so there are many areas where we can stay the course. But better communication of all FSBPT resources to all members would increase awareness and utilization of resources when needed. And that is not an easy nut to crack. I think all organizations who produce the volume of helpful material like this struggle with how to get out the word that they're available. But I know that we'll continue to work through that. Another recommendation is to continue efforts to enhance new board members' administrator onboarding. That is a key step to raising the overall awareness and getting buy-in to the organization by anyone new to the group. We know that naturally there's some turnover with board members, so it's just a critical way to keep the organization moving forward. To look at new ways to give members opportunities to become involved, and if any of you were wondering, don't forget there is the volunteer opportunity on the website. Now's the time where we are all signing up. And to consider the development of the top 4 strategic initiatives, including the PT Compact, Continuing Competence, ELDD, and evidence-based regulation. And I think you can see those topics are all top of mind even at this annual meeting. So, Carl Fusco prepared the report. There is his contact information. If you have any questions about the actual survey itself, feel free to contact him directly. I didn't put my email on there, but you can find me in the app if you have questions about the discussion that happened at the survey task force. Or, as always, to feel free to contact the board or senior staff, most importantly, with any questions or concerns. And last call for any questions from the audience.
When you were looking at the participation in different meetings, and it was said that board members participated more than board administrators, I was wondering, was that like actual numbers or was it the percentages? Because obviously there's more board members on a board than there are administrators. So I was just wondering if that's like a, you know, like a real true number, or if it's more the percentages of the people that responded.
It was percentages. Yeah. But since there were more board members, there was also more board members. But it was based on the percentage of the board members.
So we didn't take a calculation of the percentage of administrators that actually participated versus the percentage. Oh, okay. Thank you.
I just wondered if you had historical data on that screen about the importance of the NPTE exam. It said like 96% highly value it, but I just wondered, yes, here, And then the next one, I believe after that maybe, was like a bar chart? No, okay. Yeah, it's that one I'm thinking of. I just wondered historically if there's been any changes in that, because I think COVID kind of shifted a lot of things in education and the way people perceive these traditional assessment methods, and I certainly agree that it's strongly important, but I wonder if that change in thought will trickle down into some of these survey scores, or if it's impacted it at all.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up. Son, I'd have to look that up. Oh.
I can help with that one. So Susan Newman on Federation staff, and we helped with the building of this survey. These were new questions this year, and a lot of the reasons why we added them were the ones Heather just listed, right? So we would consider this kind of a point in time, and given all of the interest in testing and regulation, we can monitor this going forward. So new additions this year, fresh data.
One more over here. Haha.
Good morning. I'm Ryan from Wyoming. Carl, thank you for your work. I love a presentation with good descriptive statistics. That's being honest. And obviously the general trend for all of us is the FSBPT does great work. So we recently found out, Carl, you may have missed out on this, that there's no longer a need for copy machines, fax machines yesterday, which is disappointing, and perhaps is a look at the future trends of things, of which it stands out to me a little bit that social media perhaps has this off-the-chart unimportance in the current, this current cycle of gathering information from its membership. Is there a perception or a concern of that becoming a problem in the future? And what's the opportunity, I would say, in some of these other endeavors to improve the awareness of younger board members on some of the priority goals coming up that's been listed out by this particular research?
Well, just to reiterate, the social media being off the chart is in relation to how people are using social media to communicate with the FSBPT and to learn about the FSBPT. So that just means that they're not using social media for that purpose. So there are two things. One, is there any activity being pushed by FSBPT in social media? If that's the case, then that's a problem because people aren't attending to it or paying attention to it. The other issue is if there's not a lot of activity, then there's a reason why there's no one's using it. So those are the two things to check out. But social media is something, especially among younger people, that is being used more often for different things. Things like Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, which is now X, I shouldn't call it Twitter anymore, are becoming more prevalent among younger people than people my age, even though I'm on Twitter or X and Facebook and LinkedIn, but I'm not using it probably as actively as some younger people. So that's a good point.
So the committee did talk about that piece a little bit, and that's one reason Carl discussed it is something that we highlighted to the board of directors, and it's really a decision that the board of directors needs to make as to how much to invest in that tool accordingly, because social media does need tended to. So. Any other questions? I said it in the introductory rounds yesterday, but I think the most important thing, the goal of this survey and this session, and I thank you all for attending, is to show the transparency of the activity. Nobody's trying to sweep anything under the rug. This was the full results, and Carl's willing, you know, the appendixes are available. This is information. I think it shows the strength of an organization that they're willing to hear it and put it out there for everyone to see. So I applaud the team here and the board of directors for doing that. And I thank them for the opportunity to participate.
Can you advance your slideshow so they can get the QR code?